that which is commonly called the fall. Through the patterns of our meditation, we are all familiar with those principles. And the experience which changed the course of existence for untold billions of people, which caused a paradise to become a place of hell, which caused human beings to create that hell instead of sharing in the creation of heaven on earth. We recall that it was emphasized at that time, according to the record, that it was man partaking of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, trying to be as God, which brought about this change. There are many factors here which we might well meditate upon this morning. But I would like to draw your attention to a broad view of the situation as it has been and now is in the world. The situation as it relates to these principles, so that you may better see and understand some of those impulses and vibratory factors which are at work in you, and so that you may be in better position to render effective service. We look out into the world and we see in the pattern of mankind's advance in civilization the development of certain definite concepts of good and evil, certain definite ethical and social patterns with respect to what one might do and with respect to what one might not do. And we see that in different parts of the world these patterns vary. Often governed largely by the human concept of that which was essential to the survival of the race or the particular group involved. We might note, for instance, that in the early period of the children of Israel, when the survival of that group depended upon increasing in numbers, There was no frowning upon what is commonly called polygamy. Later, when it was conceived that the balance and survival of the group in the civilized world, so-called, was best served by another pattern, monogamy was instituted. To try to count one as evil in any case and the other as good would be foolish unless one were to say that on the surface it is evident that that which was later instituted would have been evil in the earlier period. And possibly we can say that that which was considered good in the earlier period would have been evil in the sense that it might have been harmful in the later period. This is just an illustration merely to introduce a pattern of meditation. The idea of what constitutes good and what constitutes evil, as it has been embedded in human consciousness. And that idea of good and evil has changed, not so much with the advance of civilization as we think of it, as with the changing patterns of need as they appeared in the world on the basis of the survival of the human race. The deep-seated factors in human lives are generally more or less covered up. Their symptomatic patterns of manifestation are considered, and various efforts are made to deal with those symptomatic manifestations. But generally speaking, there is an avoidance of a direct consideration of basic factors. We realize that, in keeping with the whole pattern of our ministry, the teaching of the Third Sacred School, while it may be necessary to deal with symptomatic patterns as a temporary measure, an interim process, no true correction is ever established until individually or collectively we penetrate to the level of fundamental or basic patterns. During this sojourn in the eastern part of the country, the United States and Canada, I had the opportunity of analyzing, perhaps briefly but directly, into the life pattern of many, many people. Many days were spent touching deep into human lives. In some cases, the individuals involved